So what is today's challenge in the coal crisis? We have an installed power capacity, production capacity of around 388 gigawatts. So when you measure power, there are two indicators. One, the installed capacity. Installed capacity is if all the power plants in India are able to produce power to its full capacity. That is called the installed capacity. India has an installed capacity of 388 gigawatts. But what we are not producing everything today. No, never all the all the power plants in India produce power to the fullest capacity. The total installed power capacity. Power includes several forms: thermal, tidal, nuclear, wind, solar, etc. So the total installed power capacity is 388 gigawatts. We are producing somewhere around 174 gigawatts to 202 gigawatts. In July, we had touched a peak generation of 202 gigawatts. So, but still, why there is a challenge today? There is a debate today. Will India plunge into darkness? Will India face a major electricity outage? We have seen Facebook internet outage recently. Will India see or witness such a situation of a sharp cut in the supply of power? Normally, it should not be, because when you have 388 gigawatts of capacity and you're not even producing 200 gigawatts. But what is the recent challenge? As I told you, India's power mix includes many sources, and the thermal is the main source. The thermal power accounts for coal-based thermal power itself accounts for 52% of the total installed power capacity in India. So we largely depend on the coal-based thermal power. Of course, there's a gas-based thermal power also, but we are heavily dependent on coal-based thermal power. And what is the coal? Therefore, there should be a seamless supply of coal from the coal fields to the power plants. So when will you have a seamless supply? If a coal-based thermal power plant is set up nearer coal mines, then it is possible for you to ensure seamless supply without any logistics challenges. For example, we have a National Thermal Power Corporation, NTPC Power Production Unit in Ramagundam in Telangana. We have a coal belt in Godavari. So it is called pit head plant. Pit head plant means the power is produced where the resource is available, where the fuel is available. But that's not the case with all the power plants. So suddenly the power plants are now reporting huge shortage of coal supply. According to the estimates, today many power plants do not even have stocks required for 4 days. Normally, a thermal power plant is ideally expected to maintain a 22-day coal stocks. What do you mean by 22-day coal stocks? So they should maintain coal deposit sufficient to run the power plant for 22 days. Suppose if a thermal power plant requires 100 tons of coal every day to produce the targeted power supply, then it has to keep 2200 tons of coal with it. So, because there will always be a lag behind demand and supply. So, but now this has fallen to 4 days. So the inventory, coal inventories with thermal power plants are sharply declined. Assuming that if the coal supply doesn't continue for 5 days or a week, the thermal power plants will be simply shut. They can't run. So how much of this coal-based power is now vulnerable to lack of coal supply? Almost, as I told you, the coal-based thermal power account for 52% of the total installed power capacity. In many of these power plants, as many as 64 thermal power plants reported a huge shortage in coal supplies. So what should be done? Look at the importance of governance here. Governance is not just state government and central government. Even in a corporate company, it's called corporate governance. Even it can be a school, it can be a college, it can be a company, it can be an institution. Governance is how do you run that system effectively? How do you run that system efficiently? Tomorrow, if you become a CEO of a company, how do you run that company efficiently? It's called the governance. So not just efficiently, ensuring the ethical standards, ensuring that the objectives of the company are met, all this form part of the governance called corporate governance. So now the challenge in the system is you have a huge shortage of coal. Why is this happening? The first reason is the thermal power plants have not maintained adequate coal stocks. As I told you, they're expected to maintain at least 22 days of coal stocks, but they have not maintained. Why did they not maintain? Because the power demand was sluggish due to pandemic. So obviously, when the power demand is sluggish, the power plants need not maintain huge stocks of coal. But suddenly what happened is the economy got opened up. The fears of third wave are waning. So the number of cases have come down drastically. Several economic activities resume. So there is a sudden uptick in economic and thereby sudden increase in the demand for electricity. So obviously when there is a sudden increase in the demand for electricity, the thermal power plants started consuming the limited coal stocks which they have had. So this is the first reason. So the demand supply mismatch is a result of sudden increase in demand for coal because there is a sudden increase in the demand for power. Then the second reason is normally in every September, August, September, there will be disruption in coal production and supply. So the thermal power plants are advised to maintain the required stocks in advance. When you're heading a product manufacturing unit, assuming that you become a CEO of a manufacturing unit, so you have to maintain the raw material stocks. You have to ensure the possible disruption in the raw materials. That's what the leadership is. That's what the governance is. So you have to ensure the supply chains. Look at what happened in pandemic. There's a massive disruption of global supply chains. 30, 40 years ago, the manufacturing activity used to be concentrated in a particular country from everything, from beginning to end. But over a period of time, with the emergence of multinational companies, what is a multinational company? A company that has operations, activities in more than one nation is called a multinational company. So with the rise of MNCs, the global supply chains emerge in the global economy. What do you mean by global supply chain? A particular product is produced in a piecemeal manner at several locations. One country provides raw material, another country purifies it. One more country creates the design, another country executes, some other country does something else. It is called the supply chain. For example, we have a large pharma production base in India. For example, before the pandemic, 60% of global vaccines were manufactured in India. But where do we get the raw material from? Raw material we procure from USA, we procure from other countries. Similarly, for the pharma production, even for paracetamol, the raw material or the intermediaries next to the raw material, we get it from China. They are called APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients. 70 to 80% of APIs in India come from China. So when the China faced the pandemic initially, because they were the first country to face the pandemic, so these global supply chain disrupted. And we are facing a shortfall of medicines like paracetamol and azithromycin. When there is a shortfall, there is an increase in cost also. So this is the integrated manufacturing network of the world today. Why these global supply chains emerge? To maximize the efficiency. In a competitive economy, you have to produce at a cheaper rate. You have to produce at a competitive rate. You have to produce at an affordable price. So there's always a competition to produce at a cheaper rate. It's called frugal engineering. Today, for example, Tata said, we'll produce car at less than 1 lakh rupees. So the modern engineering is how do you produce at a lower price without compromising the quality? So the innovations are required to make things cheaper. So therefore, the global supply chains are a result of the race for reducing the cost of production. For example, you want to produce a commodity in the United States of America. It costs very high precisely because the labor costs are very high. The labor cost in America and labor cost in India are not the same. Assuming that you have to produce any product, a computer. So you require engineers, hardware engineers. You require many people. So what is the salary of an hardware engineer in America? And what is the salary of an hardware engineer in India? What is the salary of someone who tests the hardware in America and someone who tests the hardware in India? There's a huge difference in the salary structure. So how does the company reduce the cost? The simple technique is they design the system in America, manufacture the goods in a country where there's a cheaper labor, and assemble it in another country where it is sold. That's the reason why a lot of things are assembled in India. We may not produce in India, but we assemble in India. Why did Apple move its production base from America to China and now to Vietnam? And India is trying to attract Apple precisely because the labor is cheaper here. The real estate is cheaper here. Not only that, production moves sometimes when regulations are relatively less. Suppose the environmental regulations are very strict in America. You can't throw away electronic waste in America. But in our country, chelta hai. So we can throw away e-waste into municipal waste also. Nobody bothers. So there are many reasons why production facilities got diversified in the last few decades. Pandemic has shown the complexity involved in it. When something happened in China, entire world economy started crumbling. That is the level of dependence on China today. So therefore, the global supply chains have to, not just the global supply, you need to have a local supply chain also. You are a head of a company, you are a CEO of a company. You have to ensure that all the supply chains, all the logistics are efficient. So that is the what you learn from concept of governance, concept of good governance. So today what is happening in the power crisis, I'm giving you this example to drive home the importance of the concept of good governance. So the sudden increase in the power consumption led to the sudden rise in the coal consumption, resulting in drying up of the coal reserves. Second, as I told you, September is the rainy season. Heavy rains and floods disrupt the coal production and coal supply because road networks are adversely hit. And we are increasingly moving to the open cast coal production. The traditional coal mining is done away with. And we are moving towards an open cast mining. And open cast are more vulnerable to rains. So this is the second reason. Third reason is, well, these power plants have to pay the dues to the coal mines. So when the power plant don't pay the dues in time, the coal mines may not supply the coal in time. So non-payment of dues is also one reason for the lapses, for the gaps in the coal demand and supply. So yet another reason for this is, well, we also depend on imported coal to an extent. The problem with our coal is there's a lot of ash content in the coal. So this ash is removed in washeries. So the imported coal is more quality. So therefore, we also import the coal. The coal imports account for 30% of the domestic coal production. In the recent past, the prices of coal in the international market has suddenly increased. So when the imported coal becomes too costly, the power plants do not import coal when the indigenous supply is in short supply. Because once you import the coal at a higher price, the cost of power production increases. And the tariffs are predetermined. They can't change the tariff. So you can't produce at a higher cost than what you are actually paid for it. So thermal power plants also reduce imports of coal. So all these factors led to a massive gap between demand and supply of coal in India. And yet another aspect is the non-coal sources of power are also hit. Suppose solar power, wind power. It's not easy to produce solar and wind power in this season. The seasonal factors define and determine solar and wind power. You can't produce solar power whenever you want. So these are all challenges. And as a result today, there's a fear that India may face a serious power crisis. But however, experts feel that this problem is there. This problem is there every year, but this year it is more. It has further aggravated. So you need a long-term solutions to this problem. So immediate solution, you have to augment coal supplies, whether domestic or foreign. Well, CRISIL rating agency says it will take few weeks to ease this demand-supply mismatch. But many experts feel that there may not be India may not plunge into darkness. There may not be a serious outage. So because in the modern production era, your students of engineering, you know very well, you will learn also. In the modern production era, the structures of production are very complex. For example, recently we have seen Facebook crash. So what are the implications of Facebook crash? Well, everybody is talking about how much loss the Facebook has incurred. Facebook has supposedly incurred $100 million of loss. But that's not a big problem. Facebook will recover it. So the problem is not just Facebook incurring losses. Well, what are the technical reasons for the Facebook and its family crashing? Well, internet outages are not uncommon. It happens quite often. Even greatest companies like Google faces challenges in its activity. But what happened is the Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram has faced this problem for 6 hours, which is unprecedented. And today, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram is the basis for communication and commerce globally. Millions of people, companies, economic entities, businesses depend on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram to run their activities. So when there is a disruption in these platforms, so the communication and commerce both were affected. And what the loss incurred by Facebook, expected to be around $100 million, is much less compared to the loss due to disruption in global communication and commerce. Assuming that tomorrow, if the Google faces similar problem for 6 months, what kind of situation will prevail? All Gmails will come to standstill. So what is the level of what kind of situation you face? You can't even believe it. Do you know how much of the content is uploaded on YouTube every day? I'll give you a very interesting comparison, which the YouTube internal team told us. If a person wants to see all the videos uploaded on YouTube in a single day, only a day's uploaded content, it will take 71 years. That is the extent of video content uploaded every day on YouTube. So if you want to see the content uploaded on a particular day, you require 71 years. So these companies have become too big to fail. There's a concept in economics called too big to fail. If State Bank of India fails, Indian economy will collapse. If Life Insurance Corporation of India fails, the Indian economy will collapse. Similarly, if Facebook or Google collapses, then the world economy will collapse, because 3.5 billion or 350 crore people use Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So today the world is thinking, should the world accept such huge monopolies? Way back in the 1890s, United States adopted an anti-monopoly law called Sherman Act. Today the US, Europe are thinking, can we allow these monopolies to grow like this? In economics, monopoly is a symbol of efficiency. If you're efficient, you become monopolistic. But in the social sense, or even in economic sense, monopoly has its own disadvantages. So it will impede efficiency, it impedes productivity. And today, the over-dependence on tech giants, not just Facebook, Amazon, Google, Apple, Netflix. So what will happen to the world if suddenly all these half a dozen big tech companies suddenly stop? You can't even imagine the world. So should we ensure more players or more diversified landscape? So this is an issue of governance at a global level. So today the Facebook domination is a big challenge. The Facebook has a dubious distinction of spreading hate, manipulating democracies. We have seen you might have heard the episode of Cambridge Analytica, Well, Facebook is accused of manipulating elections in the United States in favor of President Donald Trump. Not president, he was a candidate at the time. So Facebook is known for colluding with the people in power. So hate mongering. So several whistleblowers in Facebook are today coming out and telling that Facebook doesn't hesitate to be unethical for its own profits. It puts profits over people. So should the world depend on such a company for so much? Then the second question is, these companies become supranational entities. So they're not confined to national borders. They don't respect national sovereignty. Some of them not even respect national laws. There's a big controversy over Twitter respecting India's laws. So how do we deal with these huge entities that are more powerful than the nations? Certainly more powerful than the smaller nations. Then the third aspect is, how will this monopoly affect the global commerce? So this is an issue. So similarly, we have seen the challenge today coming back to the coal crisis. So there is today challenge. These erratic coal supplies, will it lead to shortfall in coal production? Shortfall in electricity production. Well, experts only hope that the situation will become better soon, but the situation is certainly precarious. We need to take long-term solutions. Long-term solutions include diversifying our energy sources. We can't depend on coal-based thermal power so much because coal-based thermal power is highly polluting. We have seen how innovations in technology can do miracles. We have seen the LED lighting. We have shown to the world how this can be an effective intervention. It resulted in efficient lighting, energy efficient lighting, and also it reduced mercury pollution. The fluorescent lights, incandescent lights are heavily polluting. So therefore, it is possible we need more and more innovations in energy production. Because even today, our renewable energy production, the production of solar, wind, etc., is 50% the capacity. So we need to have a long-term planning of having an energy mix. Because the demand for electricity will increase further because we are moving towards electric mobility. Given the high fuel prices and the environmental implications of over-dependence on fossil fuels, like hydrocarbons like petrol and diesel, there is an increasing trend towards electric mobility. Governments are incentivizing electric mobility. So we have a big challenge of electricity demand rising. So how do you meet this big challenge of electricity demand? And because electricity demand increases with the increasing economic growth. So 10 years back, the extent of power which I consume is much less than what I am consuming now. Because I have an air conditioner. We never had an air conditioner 10 years ago. But we have multiple TV sets, multiple air conditioners, refrigerators. So we are depending on energy for a whole lot of things. Energy intensive lifestyle, energy intensive economic production. And this is resulting in huge increase in the energy demand. How do you meet that demand? How do you plan for that demand? How do you ensure that there is no mismatch of demand and supply? Because electricity is a critical infrastructure for economic growth. Everything comes to a standstill when there's a power disruption. So this requires a lot of planning, a lot of governance standards. We should have anticipated the demand for electricity. We should have anticipated the supply bottlenecks in coal supply. We should have anticipated the problems and disruptions in logistics because this is a rainy season and festival season coming, railway wagons, we don't get it. So these are all issues we should have anticipated. So this is required a critical thinking, a problem solving capability.